Kansas is in trouble.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're gonna make the dance, but like, I don't think they're gonna make the Sweet 16 this year, which is wild when they added Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, well, he's out, and so is McCullers. They're two
No
best players.
way.
Kansas.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why Cincinnati is just absolutely
Yeah, man.
working them
I mean,
right
they're gonna
now.
make Kansas is in trouble. Yeah, man. Sorry,
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna make the dance, but like, I don't think they're gonna make the Sweet 16 this
Yeah.
year, about to share which is this out. wild when they added Hunter Dickinson. Who's broadcasting, or was that coming from mine?
Sorry, I had to turn down my phone. Who else has punched their ticket? I would love to see a list of I'd love to get like one PDF of like every time this one's gonna punch a ticket. Like I'd love to see
It's on our
just the
it's on our Instagram. Go to our Instagram likes. You can
okay.
see the AQs that have already been
I've
filled in.
I've already missed a couple of them. I love those little guys that punch their ticket, the Sanfords of the world that punch their ticket, the
That's
Wagners,
a
the
that's a bummer for us. We were hoping that Chattanooga was gonna come out of the SoCon and punch
oh
their ticket
really?
and make us look better, but they didn't do it.
Yeah, East Tennessee came back and they were. I think they were. East Tennessee was down by like 17 in that game and won.
Love to see the little guy, especially the ones, probably won't win a game in the tournament. They're all like 13, 14, 15, 16 seeds. All right, well, we'll go ahead and start recording. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right, here
Let's
we
do it. I'm
go.
blasting out.
All right, guys, we are back with the jungle. We are doing an SEC recap and an SEC tournament preview. We do this every year. We do some predictions before the SEC season starts. I mean, I've wrote them down this year. I know Ben listened to him. He's on the pod tonight. Ryan's on the pod tonight. Hopefully, Matt's going to show up in the next bit to answer for his predictions. I think we've noticed the last 2 years, this is one of the most listened to pods typically. I can't tell if it's because people want to roast us for our terrible takes before the SEC or if it's a lot of people that we love college basketball. We watch every game like sickos, but a lot of people I know get hyped in March. And so hopefully this serves a little bit of a purpose of recapping what we've done in the SEC so far and getting you guys informed and excited for what we're going to do in March. Ben, Ryan, welcome to the pod.
Hey man, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
It looks like
That's right. Legends are made in March, baby.
hopefully this is Matt. This is just an iPhone, so it could be anyone, could be a mystery guest, but I assume that's Matt coming in. I would love for us to have random mystery guests. That would be something. But I guess we could start. I don't know if you maybe Ben, you had some stats pulled up. It could be interesting to just hear some stats off the top, and then after that we can go into our predictions. Just maybe a bit of a recap of like maybe you start with the stats. Maybe Ryan, you can tell us like just overall vibes of the season, what it's been like, just to kind of
Yeah,
inform people.
the vibes got here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, all we can say is that we were in such a better position than we were in last year overall. That's no knock against the guys that played hard for us and hustled last year, but one of Matt's comments about last season was that, oh yeah, we were definitely going to be in the tournament. But I think those last couple of weeks, we were sweating it out a little bit. We really needed that big week win at Tennessee at home to make sure that we'd punched our ticket to the dance. And this year, it was all about seeding. It was all about chasing rings and being in the championship race all the way up until the final week. So you want to talk about a vibe check, man? What a better season this has been as a fan to watch and experience. But we can get into a little bit of stat breakdown. We talked in the offseason about losing Wendell Green Jr. and Alan Flanagan, two of our most productive guys last year. Were we going to upgrade? Were we going to get better? And I think it's a pretty easy yes. But part of why we got better was the guys that did stay, the guys that came back. We talked a lot in that preseason pod about building an offense around Janai Broome. He went from 14.2 points a game to 16.3 points a game. This season, he's averaging 8.5 rebounds as compared to last season. 8.4, still the same. But you look at his assist game has gone way up. His blocks might have gone down just a little bit. But in 2022, 2023, he was only averaging about 1.3 assists per game. So one good assist per game. This year, he's averaging 2.1, which
You know
means
what?
two of his passes are leading directly to buckets.
You know what really helps the center that's passing it out to the 3-point shooter to have a good assist ratio or having a higher assist? Making shots. Your guard's making shots. So I think
I
that helped. I
mean,
don't know if his passing actually got better, or they just start freaking hitting open threes for once.
Well, I think the other thing that's really helped is his relationship with Jalen Williams, another guy that was going to return this year that came back out of the NBA prospectus whole thing that they do in the off season now. He elected to come back. He's playing less minutes, but he's scoring more points. He's scoring almost 13 points a game. And both of these guys are shooting the lights out from deep. Janai Broom has improved by almost 7 percentage points. He's shooting 35.8% from three. And Jalen Williams shooting 39.7, nearly 40% from three. And those numbers aren't aberrations. Jalen Williams has shot 78 three-pointers this year, and Janai Broom has shot 67. For reference, Trey Donaldson has shot 60 three-pointers this year. Katie
It's crazy
Johnson
that-
has only shot 86.
It's crazy that Janai's 3-point shooting got better through SEC play. That's really impressive. Our center shooting three at what percentage was it? 35%.
35.8%.
Huge for guys already so dominant underneath the basket to be shooting 35% from three. That's really cool to watch. That's one of like the best developments through the SEC, I feel like.
It's definitely the best development for him long term. He was a first team All SEC player. He was on the SEC All Defensive Team and Auburn basketball's 14th ever All American as a third team All American. So Janai Broom continuing to rack up the postseason awards. You can't say enough about what he means for this team.
You talk 3-point percentage from the team versus last year's 3-point percentage. Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah. So this year as a team, Jackson, are you ready for this number? We're shooting 35% as a team. That's
your number.
Excellent. That is excellent 3-point shooting. We've been begging for years to just be in that 33% range. Just hit a third of your shots and we'll be good. Here's a fun stat for you. We shot 718 total 3-pointers this year and made 252. So a little bit of frame of reference. We're going to go back and we're going to take a look at last season when the ball seemed to stick a little bit more. We were playing a little more hero ball, asking some late shot clock heroics. We shot 31.4% from three last season. So we've improved nearly 4 full percentage points. Last season, we shot 663 3-pointers for the entire year. That includes all the postseason. So we've already shot more 3-pointers than we did last year. And do you think we hit more 3-pointers than we have last year to this point?
Gotta be.
Yeah, we only hit 208. So we just barely clawed over 200 made total 3-pointers in the entirety of all last season. We're already at 252, and we still have the postseason to go.
I mean, 31% even feels high from last year. Like we must have catched up a little bit in the last couple of games. That 31%. It felt like we were below 30 all year. It was terrible to watch.
Yeah, it was tough. And the problem was a lot of our guys that were our consistent scorers were just not shooting that well. Janai Broom, again, we talked about him earlier, shooting 29% last year. Wendell Green Jr. Shot 29.5, so just under 30%. And Wendell Green Jr. attempted 146 3-pointers last year. So that's a pretty brutal percentage on shooting such an incredible volume. And he led all of our shooters in 3-point attempts last year. Jalen Williams shot 113. Flanagan and KD both shot 108. Janai Broom only shot 31 total 3-pointers last year. So he's already made, I believe, double the amount of 3-pointers that he even attempted last season.
It's been fun to watch too. Now I heard a lot of people throughout the season talk about assists. Do you have any interesting stats with assists?
I mean, we already know this has been one of Bruce Pearl's best teams ever in terms of ball movement. I don't have the total rankings of all 10 years that he's been doing, but we finished the year averaging 18.1 assists per game. So more than 18 assists. Our 2 point guards this year, Aiden Holloway and Trey Donaldson, combined for 5.5 assists. So nearly 6 assists, 3 split between them. Last year, we didn't see nearly the same amount of minutes from Trey Donaldson that we had this year. Wendell Green Jr. was playing 28 minutes a game, which is just a ton, especially when you think about the parity that we've had this year. Trey Donaldson last year only averaged 1.2 assists, and Wendell Green Jr. averaged at a pretty insane clip. He was averaging 4.1 assists per game. The downside for him was he was also averaging 2.7 turnovers per game. So last season, the team as a total averaged 14.2 assists per game. So we're talking about a 4 assists per game improvement. That's 4 passes leading directly to 4 new made baskets.
if you guys, there's three of us here right now, Matt's still showing up later. If you had one stat that was your most important stat for the year so far for the SEC recap, do you have like one? Like I'll just go ahead and start with mine. And I think it's by far the most important stat that we have. And it's the fact that we just keep beating teams by double digits. All year long, we have beat our opponents by double digits. We've either lost or beaten them by double digits. We have not had a close win all year, but that's okay because we've been blowing everyone out. I mean, we've only lost, what, 5 games the entire year? 7?
It's pretty it's a pretty insane stat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like winning every single game by double digits, like surely that won't keep up in this tournament. And if it does, I mean, that's got to be the most preposterous thing ever. So if we could continue to win by double digits, but it's just an
Well,
insane stat.
one team did continue that, right? There's actually, like, you would think we would have already broken the record. I mean, Auburn does not have great historical records necessarily. We're constantly breaking the records and making history under Bruce. The Flying Tigers, the 98-99 Auburn basketball team that's in their 25th anniversary, we've talked about so many times this pod, still has the record for most double-digit wins. So we'll see if we pass them. I think we're, what, 2 or 3 behind, so we'd still have to win a couple double-digit wins in the postseason to even finally break their records. That really shows you how impressive that 98-99 team was. That was a number 1 seed, I believe, in the
Yeah,
NCAA
it's
tournament.
it's just 2 games. We win 1 game in the SEC tournament by double digits, and we win our 1 game in the NCAA tournament by double digits. We're there. Matt's here in the chat saying that this is Bruce's best team in both assists and in limiting its own turnovers. I should have gone over that. We're averaging just over 10 turnovers a game, 10.6 turnovers a game. Last year, we were averaging 12.7. So nearly 2 more assists, or sorry, 2 more turnovers per game last year and 4 less assists. And that to me leads me to my most important stat of the year. Last season, take a wild guess, given that we had a couple of games in the 40s, what our average points per game was.
64.
Ryan, you want to take a stab at it?
I'm gonna say, yeah, probably around 68.
72.7. So slightly better.
Yeah.
Slightly better
in our brains. We had such a bad, we had like this team we're having so much fun with. We might like in our history and our retelling of the season, we might overdo them, honestly. That team was so unfun to watch last season. I keep thinking, oh, we're below 30% from 3 when we were actually 31%. I think we're averaging 64 points. We actually did 71. Like, I think we just had such a bad experience and a sour taste in our mouth from last year's team that I'm like underrating them.
I mean, there's some recency bias there for sure, but it's also, you're right, getting to watch this team this year with a lot of those same guys, sending Janai Broome, Jalen Williams, Katie Johnson, Trey Donaldson, Dylan Cardwell, sending all those guys back out there. We're averaging 83.5 points per game this year. That's nearly an 11-point improvement. And I think Matt's right. I think you can directly tie that to better passing with our improved assists per game numbers and fewer turnovers.
I believe early in Bruce's tenure, maybe, yeah, it had to have been early in Bruce's tenure. We hadn't scored 100 points in years. It was like a decade or some extremely long time that we hadn't scored 100 points. And everybody freaked out when we finally scored 100 points in this like first or second year or something like that. Now we crossed the 100-point threshold mark several times this year, and it kind of almost became blasé a bit that we'd go over 100. We were letting Dylan Cardwell hit a 3 to go over 100. It was fun to just casually score like that. Ben, Ryan, I don't know if you have any stats that just really stick out with you that you think kind of like recaps the season a bit.
Yeah, I think a stat that I mentioned in our preview of the SEC was free throw percentage. Knowing that has killed Auburn basketball in the past, right? I mean, I think we all know the horror stories. Free throws, it's close to Ben's heart. I would say, we shot close to 75% from the free throw line this year. And it's a lot of those games, it helped us win games that we probably would have lost if we didn't shoot free throws well. And we, kept ourselves into games because we shot the ball well from the free throw line. We have some guys now that in the past, they go to the line, we would expect them to miss it, right? Cardwell, Janai was, that was the number one thing against Houston last year in the tournament. I think those guys have a different mindset. They hit the gym hard. And I think we've seen just vast improvement year over year with those guys. And look, if the moment was too big for him last year, that's fine. Like it could have been. That's probably the reason why we got tight there at the very end against Houston. I'm hoping that that's not in our heads moving forward because that could either help us because we all know when the tournament time comes around, these officials, right, they're also trying to move on to the next round too, right? If you get a first round game, you're trying to move on to the second Sweet 16. Those games are going to be called so tightly. These aren't conference officials anymore. These guys are trying to move on to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight as well to continue their job or they're going home. So those games are going to be so tightly called that we're going to have to rely on free throw shooting and our depth to be able to move forward. We didn't see that last year at the very end. It hurt us. I'm hoping that we can overcome that this year and continue to move forward in that.
We
Yeah,
got Jordan.
Ryan, let me.
We got Jordan in the chat. Pocket Watch,
Oh.
Ty K. Thanks
Pocket
guys
Watch,
for
we need
coming
to be
in.
here.
You knew it.
Pocket
always.
Watch,
What's your-
interesting take here. I like to see us win our first SC tournament game in 5 years, but I'd be fine losing Saturday. Just don't think we have enough to win it all, and I'd prefer the rest. I would have to disagree on the rest thing because, the 2019 team, they didn't rest at all and they won. They just kept it rolling. I think having a double bye this year is going to help us with our depth if we get past that first round game against either South Carolina or Arkansas. It scares me a little bit because we've seen teams in the past that have already played continue to play well in their next game, and we are coming off after sitting on our behinds for a week. So I don't really know if the rest thing matters at this point. It's not like
I think if we already had a bunch of quad one wins, we were a solid 2 seed. We had won the SEC on a hot run, and we win the first game. And we go out, okay, I see that because we already had our season kind of set. I think this team needs these quad one wins at the end if we really want to make a deep run in NCAA. I think we need to prove, like we've seen over and over again, how close we were to beating some of these big teams. I think all the stats prove out, all the metrics prove out that this team should be with the elite teams that have a chance of winning a national championship and the SEC tournament ring. I think this is where we kind of have to show out that like we can break that glass ceiling. We missed our chance against Kentucky at home. The only big quad one win we had was Bama at home. We lost to Bama just barely away. Tennessee might be a number 1 seed. It felt like we were right there in Knoxville. This is where I feel like if we break through an SEC tournament play, beat Tennessee in that second game, then all of a sudden this team is really going to be rolling and feeling like we can go in NCAA on fire, and those metrics and how we knew this team could be is, and we've proved it to ourselves, and it's ready to roll in March. I think we need it.
I think quad one wins are very important here because Ty K in the chat mentioned not wanting to see a team like James Madison or our friend Will Wade at McNeese. Those are probably going to be 13, 14 seed teams there. And getting a quad one win or getting 2 in this tournament can help push us over a certain seed line and get a better seed matchup than maybe one of those 2 teams. Because Ty K mentioned he did not want to see those 2 teams. I think those 2 teams would be a tough out, for any team really. And I would hate to have to play one of those 2 teams. So I would agree,
I'll
Jackson.
lose it. I'll lose it if we're a 5 seed. I'll lose it. We can't be 5 seed this year. You do not want to be a 5 seed. I listened to another podcast, I believe, that talked about how much better, like it's a huge jump from 5 to 4 percentage wise. A 5 seed loses every single year to a 12 seed.
And then trend has gone down the past few years.
Well, even then
it has, but it wasn't that long ago. I think 2021, 3 5 seeds lost.
It just feels like there's a huge and a big reason why that is. It's the 5 seeds are the 12 seeds are the best team in a smaller conference, a champion from a smaller conference. And so they've, and then the 5 seeds usually like a good but flawed team in a big conference. So of course that like kind of plays up ready for a hot mid-major team to come in and kind of meet the flaw where they're at, So it's important to get that 4 seed.
And look, I agree with both of I agree with both of you guys. I agree with the chat, and I agree with Matt, who has jumped out. He's going to try to jump back in and get on here with us. But he says our guys should be fresh. Our stars have played way less minutes than the others, and that's a fact. One of the best things year has been our ability to get guys rest. I'm going to go through and read some minute breakdowns a little bit later. But Ryan, you're absolutely right. We need to gain some momentum going into the NCAA tournament. Everybody knows how good this team is. The metrics know how good this team is. Now it's time to prove it on the court. And picking up a couple of wins or taking only one close loss in the semifinal or the final of the SEC tournament is going to go a long way towards ratcheting us up in March. But Ryan, you invoked my stat with the free throws. So I want to throw some numbers at you guys before we get too far away from looking back on last year and this year. 55%. That was Trey Donaldson's free throw percentage last year. Dylan Cardwell, 31.8. Katie Johnson, 69.4 from the charity stripe. Jalen Williams, a respectable 76.7%. And Janai Broom, 56% from the charity stripe. This year, Janai Broom shooting 60%. Jalen Williams, 82.5. Katie Johnson, 78.9, almost a 10-point improvement in his free throw shooting. Trey Donaldson, an incredibly impressive 83.9%, almost doubling his percentage, if that would even be possible, from 55. And of course, do it all Dylan Cardwell, up to 58.9%, which doesn't seem great. But when you consider that he was making less than a third of his free throws last year and how frequently he's going to get fouled when he's in that game, hitting almost 60%, incredible. It's a game-changing stat for sure.
We still saw a hack a Cardwell in that last game for the first time all year, which was interesting to see.
Yeah, it
like
was
a desperate Georgia. But Ryan, I think maybe I'll let you lead on this one, but really anybody can jump in. I think there's been some inflection points in the SEC regular season that kind of help tell the story. I don't know, just starting with Arkansas. I'll start off with Arkansas. I mean, we got that big win in Fayetteville in what we thought was a big, like, not upset, but kind of proving that we deserve to be in the SEC race for a ring, because Arkansas was predicted to be a top 14, or I believe, or predicted to have a chance at a ring both nationally and in the SEC, and they just absolutely fell apart. Look up the rumors. I'm not going to say them on here, but look up the rumors on Arkansas. But they fell absolutely apart. I don't know if you want to start there, Ryan, but like, there's definitely some inflection points in this season here.
Yeah, I mean it's been an interesting, but looking back at it, very successful SEC regular season. I mean, we were picked by most people around 6, 7. I think most people picked us 6 in the conference. Even Bruce said that that was a fair, assessment of the team before the season. And looking back at it, I think we really overplayed what our expectations probably should have been for this team, right? Because we really we were okay in non-conference, and looking back at it now, you could see kind of the trends of the way this team was going. But we started off with those 5 wins in a row, especially beating Ole Miss at home by that much, when they were, on fire and everyone thought they were pretty good, but turns out they were just
whatever we thought Ole Miss was is what South Carolina actually is. Like, claps for South Carolina.
Yeah, I would agree.
Really good
agree
this
with
year.
That. Yeah, and then obviously we went on the road, and I think we all were fearful of our road woes for the rest of the season, right? And showing what we did against Appalachian State, right? Like, this team can't win on the road, and then of course we go and drop 2 tough games on the road. I think this really was an inflection point moving forward about who are our guys here? Like, are they going to step up to the plate? Because we could have crumbled and, really not had a great showing against Vanderbilt, really had not had a great showing at Ole Miss. That Ole Miss was a great game too, of where, hey, these guys can overcome some road woes, and they've showed that. And then obviously we come back and beat Alabama. That Florida game is a wash. I mean, I'm not even gonna. Oh, there he is. That is beautiful.
If you're on the YouTube, I believe you'll probably see now that your co-host Matt Donaldson is on the pod. He is wearing an absolutely beautiful shirt. Ben or Matt, do you want to describe what you're wearing right now?
I'm wearing a sorry for all the delays, guys. I've enjoyed the pod while I was driving home. Jalen Williams, classic design. I believe this goes back to, you guys saw this in New York, right? With Jalen's mom
We
and
ran
some.
into we ran into Jalen's family in the Barclays Center in New York.
So Ben was
Go
very.
back and listen to those live episodes.
Ben sent me this as a gift. So this is a Ben Young special. I'm loving it. This is great.
Matt, can we get a promise that if we go deep in the NCAA tournament and you get to make it to a game, that you will wear your Jalen Williams shirt at the game?
Oh, absolutely. That's not even a question.
I don't know about the NCAA tournament. Perhaps. Well, because I don't know.
You said Ryan said no problem. I know Matt well enough. He's gonna wear his polo. He's gonna want to look all professional
No,
a little
you
bit.
gotta wear that thing.
No,
I don't
I'm
even
just
care.
talking about, am I going to Phoenix? Like, am I able to go to Phoenix?
If
in
we go
April?
Final Four, you got to go Phoenix, right? You didn't make the last one.
I don't know. I will say, if we make the SEC tournament final, it's possible here in Nashville. We'll see.
You'll wear the shirt.
I haven't committed to going yet, but if I go, I will wear the shirt. If I
There
go,
we go. All right, at least we got that. We got that. At
Well,
least we
I
do
gotta
some.
I gotta edit all of this out. Holy cow!
We do some live on Broadway takes with the Auburn fans if we win the SEC tournament, the sex tournament.
maybe.
All right,
Man,
well,
I went back and listened to our preseason podcast, and maybe was Matt's favorite answer.
Yeah. I enjoy not knowing what's going to happen. So I've had a blast this year.
Pocket Watch is asking, how could you not go to Phoenix, Matt? Come on, Pocket
I'd
Watch
like
is at
to
all the
go to
games. You go hang
Phoenix.
out with them.
I'm
just-
saying.
I'm
Hey,
just
Didn't the Auburn Tigers Twitter account or something post like, "Hey, we'll have a watch party at A-Day for Phoenix" or something like that? Like, we all know we're going. So you might as well just go ahead and book your flights.
Last time I was in Phoenix, I had a fantastic time watching Auburn athletics. I'm just saying. It might another meeting in the desert. Yeah.
All right,
I
look,
just-
we're getting dangerously close to the F word. So let's get back on basketball.
Well, here's something I wanted to talk about real quick that's interesting. We were talking about that away swing that really, it lost us the SEC. You could pick other times too, but we went down 15 at Alabama. We showed some grit to come back from that. That was a big deal. It just sucked. It felt like we let the rope loose or whatever you want to say at the end of the second half and lost that game. Sucks. It gave Alabama this lead that kind of had their narrative going all year that Alabama's better than they were. And then we go lose on the road, Mississippi State, just drop it. We just dropped that game. But it's another grit situation where we came back and won the next three versus Vanderbilt at home, at Ole Miss, and Alabama at home. It's just another one of those, this is a solid team that can shrug off this kind of stuff. And then we go to Florida. What happened at Florida? Is this something telling to this season? Or was
No.
this a one-off? What happened? Why did we...
Complete one-off.
It's got to be the most strange result of all the games this season. Right?
No, I don't think so. I think it follows a pattern that we saw against Alabama in Tuscaloosa and against Kentucky at home, where we are prone to some nights where our shooters don't hit as well. It happens more frequently on the road than it does at home. But we saw it happen against Kentucky, and that's just a part of college basketball. It's a part of how many games you're going to play, that you're not going to play your best ball every night. And unfortunately, those were a couple of games we played some of our worst ball. We got good looks early against Florida and just nothing fell. And before we knew it, we looked up and we were down 11-0.
Well, let's also look too. So the game before each one of those games, Alabama at home, super emotional, super charged, had one of our best offensive performances of the year. Come back on the road, Florida had a bye, and they came out and were extremely prepared for us, and the result is what it was. Next Wednesday, South Carolina at home, ranked number 11, super amped, one of the best offensive performances we've seen in a long time from this team. Come back and lay a dud. It's part of basketball. We wish we could have seen better, but I think this is part of the middle of February. You look around the country and teams had some similar results around that same time. That were around that area, and it is what it is. But I think we came back and we responded every single time we had something like that. It could have been a trend, but this team answered the next game by putting up 97 at Georgia. After the Florida game, we put up 101 against South Carolina, who's a 5 seed in this tournament. So I'm actually proud of this team for coming out, because teams in the past we know would have come out and it could have been a trend, and that could have been just the way this team is. But this team always had a way to respond. So now moving forward into this tournament format, we can't afford a game like that So, which team are we going to get every single game we come out now? Are they going to be the team that's figured it out and they're going to always have that offensive, performance there? Or are we ever going to have a game like at Florida and like at Kentucky, and then we're back on this pod and we're like, we should have saw it coming. That's going to be that's going to be we got to look out for with this team.
I think a narrative with these two worst losses for sure. At Florida, where we lost 81-65, got blown out, we're never really in it. And then at home versus Kentucky. Kentucky's a good team, but we were at home and just couldn't hit anything. 70-59 loss. I think the narrative with those two in my head is buys. Florida had a bye before they played us, and they planned for us, and they came off rest. We had just come from at Ole Miss and at home against Alabama before they could plan for a whole week against us, and we just laid neck. I mean, I don't know. The second one was Kentucky game. We had already come off at Florida versus it was just a long streak of games that were really tough. And our bye week was after Kentucky. And it felt like we were a different team after that bye week. The Georgia, everything was a win except for at Tennessee. And Tennessee is one of the best teams in the nation. And we were toe for toe the entire time in Knoxville. So I feel like this narrative here of like our losses, a lot of it comes down to bye weeks. Florida side and our own side before, if we just had that bye week before Kentucky, I think we would have had a different result. Any other
I don't
narrative
disagree.
stuff?
I want to talk a little bit about where the preseason rankings were. So just so everybody knows, we're also going to go through some of our previous takes. I think now that we've got all four hosts here, it might be a fun time to go back and look at where we were right and where we were wrong. But before we do that, let's look at the rest of the media. They hit the nail on the head with Tennessee finishing number 1 overall. They were the outright champion, undisputed champion of the regular season. They're the number 1 overall seed in the SEC tournament. And as the number 4 seed, Auburn, if they can win their first game, will play them in the second weekend. But the number 2 team in the SEC, according to the media, was going to be Texas A&M. The number 3 team, Arkansas. The number 4 team, Kentucky. All right. Kentucky got a double bye. They're the number 2 seed. You at least got them in the right spot. Number 5, Alabama. Again, not bad, except that Alabama did get a double bye. Auburn, number 6, which we all knew about. Mississippi State might be the most underwhelming team, in my opinion, of the year, in part because they were predicted to finish 7th, which is about where they finished, but they're going to miss the NCAA tournament unless they can win the entire SEC tournament. They did not put together enough of a resume.
I can't believe them and Texas A&M are going to miss the NCAA tournament again. Texas A&M is
wild.
just
Possibly.
so you think Texas A&M? If Texas A&M's right in that same spot they've been the last couple of years, right? They keep not playing that well and then being right on the edge, and then they probably aren't going to make it again. I doubt they make it again.
Just watch. It's going to come down to between them and Indiana State. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
God, Florida please finished... Indiana State. If you don't know about Indiana State, they're a feel-good story you're going to want to see.
We're not here to talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 8, Florida, who finished 6th overall, just outside of the double bye, and was a potential part of that 5-way tie for the SEC championship. Missouri, winless Missouri, did not win a single game in conference, was projected as number 9. Ole Miss projected at 10. So in some ways, Ole Miss did outperform, but they're going to be another team that misses the big dance unless they can pull off some magic in the SEC tournament. Vanderbilt, who I believe was the 13 seed in the SEC tournament, was predicted to finish 11th. Georgia, predicted to finish 12th, which is about where they wound up. LSU, 13th. LSU did slightly better. They were flirting with a 500 record in SEC play. And the big surprise of the year, South Carolina was picked to finish dead last at 14th in this league. And right up until the final weekend was contending for an SEC title.
Insane, man. Like roses for that South Carolina team. They were fun to watch all year. And like you said, was in contention the entire year. It feels like our 2018 or 2017, 2018 SEC champion team. It just didn't fall right for them like it did for the Auburn team. They just stayed in it and stayed in it, stayed in it. And like you said, 1 or 2 wins go different direction here. I mean, they were playing Tennessee on the second last game. If they had pulled off a miracle or pulled off a big game right there, it was their SEC championship. It's really crazy, and shout out to South Carolina for being there. So just bad luck for them. Same for us. You kind of have to have a certain amount of luck to win, and 5 losses is rarely going to do it for an SEC team, but a game here or there, that's just how the chips slide. How many losses do we have that 17-18 year, do you think? Is that 4? Was that 5?
4 or 5.
Yeah, so it was
4.
around that same. Was it 4? Well, any other thoughts on this SEC regular season here before we move on to our own predictions?
Do y'all think
So
the
we-
league's good?
That's a
I don't
great
either.
question. That's
I
a
don't either.
fantastic question. You
I
think so,
think it's
Ryan?
good. I think it's good.
I don't know
I
if we
think
have
I
the
think the top half is extremely good.
Yes, that's what I mean.
I think we're pretty mid. I think when you look at the cream of the crop this year, it's tough to argue against the Big 12, but the tournament's going to tell us a lot
Yep.
because the Big 12 is going to put a lot of teams in. So is the Big 10, honestly. The ACC is probably going to put 5 or 6 teams in. The SEC is going to be right there with them. There seems
We're
to
gonna
be a
have 7
lot
or
more
8.
parity. Yeah,
South
there's going to be a
Car-
lot more parity this year, so it should be interesting to see.
South Carolina and Florida playing so well amongst the other big dogs of Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn does concern me a little bit. Does give me that would be more of a check mark towards like, hey, maybe we are a little mid. The only team I think we played against that made me think like this is an elite team was Tennessee with Connect, and maybe that was just the night we played them in Knoxville. But that's the only team that was like, holy crap, this team's that good. But even that, so that makes me wonder: is the whole SEC that good? I don't think so. So then in Tennessee they end up winning it, but they had their struggles at times too. So if they're the only one that's supposed to be that great, I don't know. You're right. I think it's an amazing
and
question.
Clemson-
I wish I had a better
Clemson-
answer for like what I think.
Clemson went into Coleman and beat the dog crap out of Alabama.
But we can't look
just-
at November. I mean, we can't like that's
No. Alabama has matured as a team, but then like you look at where Clemson wound up finishing.
Mhm.
Clemson kind of wound up middle of the pack. The upper echelon of the middle of the pack, they're going to be a tournament team, and so it's until we see how March Madness shakes out. I think it's going to be hard to measure these leagues against each other. There's a lot of parity this year.
I do think we have a bunch of second weekend teams. I
Yeah.
don't think we have more than
Okay.
one late March Madness. Like Tennessee's the only team that feels like they could go beyond the Sweet
Mm.
16. I
Yeah,
know
I
these other teams have a
disagree.
chance.
Kentucky.
I disagree.
Yeah,
We've got at
Kentucky.
least
Well,
3.
Kentucky always because they have so much talent. It feels like they don't play that way.
This seems different.
And I also
I think.
agree. I also agree with the common media consensus right now, which is that if Alabama can get out of their first game in March Madness, they could go to the Final Four. They're going to have
the ceiling
Yeah.
for the top 4, and I include Auburn in this. Metrics
Yes.
analytically, the
Yes.
ceiling for the top 4 teams is really high, and that's not to say anything. And Florida has proven, but against all those 4 teams, that they're legit. Now, can them and South Carolina do anything in the NCAA tournament? I don't know. And can we? I mean, I don't know. My gut says that I agree with Ryan. The top half of the league, especially, is pretty strong. I mean, we'll find out, but I feel like
When
it's
you-
pretty good.
Yeah, because when you listen to national people, I've been doing that, I've been working all day. Like everyone feels like all of a sudden that this is going to be a very chalky top half of the bracket. Like UConn, Purdue, Tennessee or Arizona. Everyone's on Kentucky right now. Like everyone's on Kentucky. So, with that in mind, like
Why does it feel like that? Why does it feel like that every year? Kentucky might get hot. Kentucky might get hot. It doesn't matter how Kentucky
Because
plays.
they've
they're
been
there.
hot.
Kentucky might
They've
get
been
hot.
hot the
and
last 6
and
weeks.
it's because they always have a lot of freshmen that play a lot of minutes. Their 6th man of the year is a true freshman, and it takes a while for your team to get together. I mean, Jackson, you were just talking about the last 5 games of this year, how different this Auburn team has looked. And it's going to be the same way for Kentucky. Kentucky's going to struggle and slog through a lot of the year because they're so young. But
yeah.
they've got a ton of talent, and people are all just thinking like, oh, if they can put it together, put some money on them.
Look,
I mean-
I hope Kentucky fails again. They haven't done much in March in a long time. I hope Rick Barnes does his magic again and Tennessee falls apart. I hope Nate Oates doesn't get to anywhere near a Final Four. But I think those teams are good, and we all know it's hard to get to that point for whoever you are. I just think we'll see.
Much like our at Knoxville, Tennessee game could have won us an SEC. I feel like the domino that could knock Rick Barnes off his game could be our game in the SEC tournament. If we can beat Tennessee in the SEC tournament, I feel like that could be that domino that just starts the doubts at that Tennessee team that they just cannot figure it out in March. But if we let Tennessee win the SEC tournament or even go to the championship going through us, I feel like that's their sign to be like, this is a different year. So I feel like it's going to be on us to start that domino.
They don't view us like that though.
They would view us like that if we knock them out in the SEC tournament.
They
I feel
should.
like.
They should
Again.
based on the history, but they do not view us
Again.
like
Well, I don't know if you guys want to hear something fun, but Rick Barnes was
Always.
supposed to pick up his 800th career win on senior night against Kentucky at home, and they lost that game. So Rick Barnes is still seeking magic 800. Now, we won't be his first game in the SEC tournament. So if we play against him, he's already got win number 800, but we could leave him stuck on that number, which would be pretty sweet.
So I think it's also interesting because you could also probably say the same thing about Auburn getting hot at the right time, right? Like things have been, hey Jax, you mentioned earlier, I'm the vibes guy here. So things have been trending in the right direction, right? Guys have been hitting shots. I think we've all have been waiting on the Denver Jones shooting hype, right? We know it's there. We've seen it. We know he can knock down jumpers, but we hadn't seen it at a consistent basis. And then that last game of the year against Georgia, it was like, okay, if one of these games in March, he was to come out there and do that, he would be an absolute hero to us. It was like, this is what we wanted. This is Bryce Brown 2.0. Like, so he is every single game this year. And I think people had way too much expectation, hype on him at the beginning of the year. And, you know, for whatever reason, that was the case. But he has just kind of done his job every single game, right? He's gotten better defensively. Early in the year, he tried to drive to the basket, was not used to the athleticism, getting his shot swatted off the backboard all the time. I remember that Baylor game, he got blocked like 4 times, right? And then it was like, we saw him pull back from doing that again for a very long time. Now it's like the game has slowed down. He is hitting shots. He is playing incredible defense. You know, I think it's an interesting thing. Before the season, everyone kind of freaked out when Denver Jones was getting reps at the point guard. I think it was a great, smart play by Bruce to get him there because it also slowed the game down for him. He also is a great defender. I mean, I think that's an underrated part of his game. Great defender.
Preseason prediction by Matt, by the way.
Yeah. So, you know, it's coming into this postseason, unlike last postseason, we have a couple guys that we know can potentially, quote unquote, go off. Like, we're all still waiting on that Baylor-esque game from Aiden still. It could happen. It could happen. Denver, he has shown it could happen. Chad has showed at Georgia it could happen. So we do have guys that can make those things happen. Jalen, it's just, can they show up and do it?
And Chaney.
Chaney, yes. Like, if we just put it all together at the right time, I mean, then those crappy losses that we had in SC play don't really matter anymore.
So, some of this feels like it comes down to Matt's always talking about there's only so many shots. Only one guy can have the ball in his hands at a time. The Chaney step up was because Jalen went out, and all of a sudden Chaney got a little confidence, and it was like, oh wow, okay, well maybe Chaney should shoot that. Maybe Chaney should drive that. Maybe Chaney should back that down actually. And when in the past he was passing that, it was interesting to see Denver. I pulled up the 3-point shooting percentage because I just assumed that Denver was probably the top. After we saw that last game, it was kind of like he hasn't shot that much before. We haven't even allowed him to shoot that many times before. And it really was just because he hit so many early. We were like, just keep feeding him. We hadn't fed him like that all year. We ran a couple plays for him, but a lot of it comes down, we just haven't fed him. And then just see that CBM is shooting an even better 3-point percentage. A lot of this comes down to we've not been like feeding these guys to shoot those threes. They're becoming open and people are shooting them when they come to them, which is great. That's all I've ever asked for. In rhythm, natural. Hit the open threes, which is lovely. So you wonder, like, if we gave them more opportunity, if they would have hit even more this year, Denver and CBM.
It's natural shots through an offensive progression. Like Janai getting the ball in the post, him looking, or instead of being solely focused on making a post move, he's backing the defender down. Denver is always open across court. I mean, that's one of Janai's favorite passes, and we've gotten that so many times in big moments and big games. That is a key, play there that this team is maturing throughout the year, finding open guys and those guys having good offensive possessions and hitting those shots. That is a huge difference between the past few years' teams and this year's team, in my opinion.
I'm pretty surprised to see that KD is going to end the SEC regular season with a lower 3-point shooting percentage than he did last year, right? He ended above 30% last year.
He was hot. He was our best shooter the last 15 games of the
But
year
he,
last year.
all year long, it's felt like he has hit his open threes, which is all I want him to do, is to stop taking dumb ones and start hitting open ones. And it feels like he's hit open ones, so he must have
Well,
taken some
Jackson-
ill-advised ones early in that conference.
But less than that, I want you to scroll down and look at his volume of shooting, because if you can compare that to last year, which will require too many screen changes if you're watching with us here live on YouTube, but the volume of shooting is, in my opinion, even more important than the overall percentage. Your percentage is a good indication of efficiency, but if you look at if you look at Dylan Cardwell's 3-point numbers, Dylan Cardwell's hitting 3-pointers at a pretty good clip until you look at the amount of shots
40% from Dylan. Shoot more, Dylan.
Yeah. Until you see how many shots it is that he's actually taken. So even though KD looks like he's shooting worse than last year, one of the things that we asked him to do, especially when Wendell Green went to the bench, was to play some more of that hero ball late in the shot clock. And so that's going to lead to more opportunities, which is probably going to lead to more makes for a pretty decent shooter. We've just asked him to do less this year. He's been slashing and attacking at the basket as one of our best athletes. And to be perfectly honest, I think he's lived up to a lot of our preseason expectations. All of us came in wondering what kind of wild card KD was going to be for us this year. Was he going to be a guy that shot us out of games? And I don't think any of us have had a moment this year where we've said, KD has to stop shooting. Like, there have been some times where he's taken some bad shots, but that dribble that Jackson used to hate, where you would see him dribble between the legs and pump for a minute and try to get the guy to go, and you just know, like, all right, here comes a missed 3-pointer. We haven't seen that nearly as much this year.
His two best traits have been leading that second unit in defensively, that just caused terror, and then what he's meant to the progression of Chad Baker-Mazara on this team and becoming his personality, and those two feeding off each other. I think those are like things that KD will never get enough credit for. I think he's settled. This is the most settled he's ever been. And you're right, the percentage isn't great, but he's
coming back next year, right?
You're getting that credit on this podcast, KD Johnson.
I don't know. I've heard things that makes it
He's
seem
coming
like
back next year. I think we could all right.
Wait,
That's
Matt, you've heard
happen.
things this year. You've heard KD slander this year.
Not slander. I've heard he might be gone.
Well, I think he's going to be ready to move on, just when you look at the talent that we're bringing in next year. But that can be a conversation for end of the season.
We'll
we
see.
don't have to talk about that.
Yeah. So
All
now
right,
we're
listen, KD Johnson, if you're listening to the Jungle Auburn podcast an hour in, please come back. We'll get that NIL.
We're gonna
money for
that'll
you.
be a great end of season conversation about what we want to do with KD for sure. If we were the GM of this team, so I think like
Bring
we're
him back.
starting to
Not a
get to the
question.
point talking just about players and things we thought about this season that we might as well go into our SEC predictions before the season, because we're going to end up talking about all this kind of stuff via our SEC predictions. Anyways, we had 4 questions. We did. What do we have to do right to be great?
Really, 3 questions.
Yeah, well, I like 4. What might kill? Like,
I had
what
fun.
would have to happen to kill us? Like, what kind of traits for the team would kill us? What will make you happy? And are you having fun? And these are all 4 very important questions, equally as important. I think the great way to frame this here. So I was thinking, what do we have to do to be great, basically? And then I thought to myself, were we great? Well, I think by answering these questions, we'll kind of figure out if we were great or not. Matt, it was, if you did this, we'd be great. So how was our depth of scoring options, and how were our veterans? Did they bring us to greatness?
Greatness. We're way closer to great than I thought. I don't, and the way Bruce said it was today, he said he thought this was a good team that could be very good, and this ended up being a very good team that has a chance to be great. And I think that was a good way to frame it. Our depth of scoring is clearly the difference this year. We have so many more weapons. We've talked about it all year. I'm including Chaney in my weapons, offensive weapons.
Wow.
We have 8 weapons, which is
The
great.
definition of weapons is might be getting lower and lower.
No, Chaney's proven that he's
Chaney's
an
a weapon.
effective player.
Cheney can
Serviceable.
get his own. No. Cheney can get his own shot. His turnaround
Yes.
jumper. If you
Yes.
get him the ball inside of 8 feet, money.
So at this point, the only people I would say are not consistent offensive threats are Dylan, Chris Moore, and Lior. Like, I think all the other 8 guys in their own ways can be weapons. So I think we answered yes on that. And then clearly this team was going to go as far as the veterans took us. Jalen's had a great year. Janai's been an all-American, all-conference performer. KD's settled in his role. Trey's been a really steady second-year point guard. I think the vets did a great job, and that's why we were in it to the end. I mean, we would have had no shot with these newcomers. I know Chad Baker's been great. I know Denver's been good, but we don't have a chance to compete with the top of this league without our veterans carrying a heavy load, and they stayed healthy this year, and they did a great job.
Now, you said we were good with a chance to be great in the SEC, and I agree. That's probably about where we are, somewhere between good and great. If there was that little bit of extra, like if we were a 7 out of 10 instead of an 8 out of 10, and it comes down to depth of scoring options and veterans, where did we miss that just took us from that 8 to a 7? Thoughts, Matt?
Wait, say that again. I was distracted by Ryan's.
Sorry, DePaul might pull off the upset of the century.
We're watching NCAA basketball in the chat.
Say that again, Jackson. I'm sorry.
So you talk about how we're good, potentially great in the SEC. So we're like a 7 out of 10 versus an 8 out of 10. What took us from an 8 to a 7? In your two things here, depth of scoring options and veterans, was there a little bit there? It's like, man, I would have said great for sure if it was just. I have an idea in my head, but I want to hear from you.
I see what you're saying. I don't know, man. It's hard to. I really feel like both. Again, I had such low expectations for how this team would be, so I feel like I'm living in. Hey, this is a 9 out of 10 for me in terms of how good the vets were. Probably better than I could have asked for, and our depth of scoring and our offensive efficiency was better than I would have thought. So I think I have a higher level. I mean. What's your take? What were you going to say?
In my head, your two things were depths of scoring options and veterans. If Chris Moore had been a little more serviceable in the backup 3, if we hadn't lost Lior, and depth of scoring options, if Aiden had just been a little more what we thought Aiden was going to be, that would have been taking us from that 7 to that 8. Where it's like, I think in your head when you had that there that's kind of where we were at. That we would have had one slightly more. If it was Chris Moore hitting a couple more shots per game, or Aiden most likely hitting a couple more threes per game, that's where we would have in our head thought that was great.
That's a good point, but keep in mind a Chris Moore that's keeping that spot off on the floor offensively. You're not seeing what Chad Baker-Mazara is doing as much.
Yeah, maybe not
this year.
Ben, for this team to be great, you had second chance points. Thoughts?
I'm going to stick with it. I think when you look at how well this team has done, it's always been inside out. And the ability for our big guys to clean up off the glass and take advantage of our missed shots, especially our missed shots when they're good and when they're in rhythm, because a good game plan is going to have your interior guys preparing for the rebound when the shot is going off. Because everybody knows Denver's coming around that curl action. He's going to take that shot. So as soon as I see him make that cut, I need to be looking to the basket in case the miss happens. And I think you look at games like Florida, you look at games like at Mississippi State, 2 games that if we could have somehow stolen those, lead us to a championship. It's a banner year. Like Matt's talking about, we go from good to great, or from great to amazing, all-time seasons for Auburn basketball. I think the areas where we were less aggressive offensively rebounding really hurt us. And over the last 5 games, I've really seen us turn that up a notch. I mean, you can see it in the amount of points we're scoring. You can see it in the offensive rebounding. You can see it in the points in the paint. I'm standing by that take.
We were 6th in the SEC in offensive rebounds, and we were 6th in rebounds in general for this team. So I think you're about right. A couple more offensive rebound putbacks could have been the difference. I mean, we were right there. We were 1 game away from winning the SEC. So I think, just a couple more second chance points going in could have been the difference between a good and a great team that goes home with rings.
The inches we need are all around us. Sorry, wrong sport.
Stormin, yours was free throw percentage. I think this might be the only one where you got that happened, but it did not take us all the way to the full on greatness, because we had a great free throw percentage year, right?
I mean, I think it won its games and it kept us in the games. And it made it. Go ahead, Matt.
This team's good. This team.
No, it's good. No, this team's
is
good.
Great,
I'm saying
This
If
is
we
a
were
great
gonna-
season in Auburn basketball history.
I think we're good to great. Good to great. You know,
Okay,
like
I'm just pointing out. I
Yeah.
feel like
this is. I
wasn't-
feel like this is the only one of the four that is so certain that like we did have a great free throw percentage year. You know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, I feel like free throws in the past have hurt this team. I think we talked about this before, so I'm not gonna get into it. But I think it's a testament to how hardworking this team is that they worked super hard on it in the offseason, and you could see drastic improvement throughout the year. I mean, if you pull up free throw percentage for Auburn,
Just
you
rewind.
know,
Just rewind the podcast. We talked about it earlier in the pod.
fourth in the
Fourth
SEC.
yeah.
I mean, Missouri being first is ridiculous, but you know, Auburn in top four is incredible. I mean, we have all been hurt by our free throws in the past. I mean, I'm not gonna say certain times, but you kind of know what I'm saying. This team can win us games in the tournament if they're shooting free throws well, if the right guys are getting to the line, like Chad Baker Mazara, like Denver. I mean, Janai hurt us last year, but you know, if you see that in the past, like he has improved drastically, so has Dylan. So I'm excited about that moving forward. I will say, you know, another thing that makes this team great is its responsiveness to challenges, and you know, it's whenever we got knocked down, besides maybe the Florida game, we always came roaring back somehow. You know, in a game, we were down 10 on the road against Ole Miss, came back, won that. You know, we're getting knocked in the first half against Tennessee, blow by blow. We brought the fight to them. So this team has fight in it, and I'm excited to see that in March. I'm excited to see that if we ever get down. We never really got blown out besides one or two games, and that was, in my opinion, fluky. But this team never shied away from any challenge, in my opinion.
Mine was I wanted us to shoot 35. Like we can all agree we're good to great. Good going on great. Could be great depending on what we do in March, but we were good in the SEC. Win another game, we would have said great. Mine was 35% from three. That's what I wanted to shoot, and I wanted our fast break offense to be good. What did we end up with? Drum roll. Here we ended up fifth in the SEC with 35.1% from three. So we did it. We did the 35%. I would say the difference here is we did, and we got better at it. We got better at Ryan's killing me with all the graphics.
Ryan's
over
got
here.
I don't
these
know where
effects, man. This
I
is
had no idea where this is coming from. It's hilarious.
Ryan. It's incredible, man. If you're not watching on YouTube, join the jungle on YouTube. This is great.
DePaul, no, DePaul. They lost at the buzzer.
Oh, Villanova just hit a 3-pointer. Brutal.
Damn.
And then they turned it over. DePaul has won 3 games all year, and they nearly upset Villanova, who has national
In
championship.
Madison Square Garden, is that where that is too?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Big East,
East
tournament.
tournament.
Crazy
All right,
stuff.
now we pull for Missouri.
And then so we hit 35.1% from straight. So we did that to take us from good to great. But I do think our fast break offense was fine. We definitely had we complained about it several times this year that we could not finish at the rim. Jalen finally in this last game just dunked on somebody's head in transition, which was great. And we weren't bad at transition or anything like that. We just did not finish quite as often as we would like to at the rim, through those. So I would say just another qualifier of how we were good, not great, and we could be great if we start finishing some of those. The next one, the question was,
Can I get off topic for a second?
sure, this is the SEC recap. If we're going to get off topic,
All
this
right.
is the pod to get off topic on.
Okay, so I love having this discussion with people, so I want to open the can of worms. I think Matt will appreciate this discussion here. 2018-2019 Auburn. SEC season. Not good, not great.
SEC
Extremely
tournament,
average.
SEC tournament team. Like they won the SEC tournament, but not the SEC regular season.
Right. They
Yeah.
won, they lost 8 SEC regular season games.
I would argue like okay to good. This is good to great. They were okay to good in the regular season. Like a lot of fun
Right.
to watch.
So
but
They were
had,
7-7 in league play.
They had some flaws for sure.
Yeah, and they were. I remember I was at that Ole Miss game we lost. It will always stick out to me as like, man, we might not make the tournament with this team, and we were that close. And then obviously we went on that run. They got a 5 seed, and the rest is history. What are the if you go back and try to remove that tournament run from that team, what are the vibes on this team versus that team?
Oh,
I mean,
completely different. The talent's so much better on this team. It feels like overall, like you might that maybe not the top end talent with Bryce Brown and the point guards, but like just overall the talent level has risen up so much more. That team was so frustrating because we knew it was better than it. We had won the SEC the year before. We knew we had these guys coming back that could hit shots all over. They kept going down like 20 every game and then storming back, and some of them we won, some of them we lost.
You're
So it
saying
felt
this
like
team's way better, more talented than that team?
I think so, yeah.
Hmm.
You remember some of the guys we had? Like it's
We
who was
were
our
we
center that
under
year?
we underachieved because that team was good. Bruce even said that today in his press conference. He was talking about that team being like he's had some really good success in his experience with teams who limp in to the end of the year and then get hot because you left so much on the table and they were mad that they finished fifth. They didn't get the double bye. They had to go to Nashville and win 4 in a row. I think one of the things with Ryan saying that is that team was the ultimate team in spurtability, if that's a word, right? They could come back from anything. They could go on runs. This team, I don't think, is quite as explosive.
It feels
But
like
this team's
team
way
felt
better
like-
defensively.
that team felt like they could beat anybody and lose to anybody. And and we kind of proved that out down the stretch. We started beating everybody, but we also proved out during the regular season we could lose anybody.
A lot of close games. A lot of close games with that team, too.
This team is almost the exact opposite, right? We've blown out every bad team on the schedule, but lost to most every good team. It's not every good team, but like we lost a lot of our quad 1 games.
So there was a clip that someone shared in our group chat of Jared Harper against Florida hitting a dagger in the SEC tournament. We haven't had one of those moments this year, period, at all.
We haven't needed it really too often either. Like we haven't needed one where the offense was so stagnant. We just had a guard jack up a 3 from NBA range that was semi-contested to win a game.
So I mean that's the Kemba Walker effect, right? You have a guy that could get you through. That if you need a bucket, you can get a bucket and get hot at the right time. So who is that on this team? Like that's what is so intriguing to me about this team, right? And why I'm so excited about. Well, yeah, is it going to be Janai? Is it going to be Denver? If we need a 3 at towards the end of the game, like is it Denver? Can Aiden get hot?
I don't think we have any idea. I don't think we have any idea.
It's not great going to March and I have any idea really, but like I texted the group, we're down 15. We got to inbound the ball full court. You got to and we're down 2. Who do you bring it up the court and who takes the shot? Matt said either point guard, he doesn't care. And you get it in Jonai's hand with a chance to kick out if he gets doubled. And I think most of everybody in the group chat agreed that that's probably the best play. I think some could argue you want maybe your best scorer, like a CBM that can score from anywhere with the ball in his hand. But it just depends on if you think you can get
behind the back pass.
Yeah, jeez. Or a Janai down screen to Jalen to have him flash to the high post. Like those type of things I think we have in our back pocket.
The college basketball coaches, though, they seem to really worry about running offense that late with that less clock left when people are playing so intensely. The defenses are flying around.
We can't predict anything about what this coaching staff is going to do. They sent us out with the game on the line against Alabama without a point guard. Does anybody remember that earlier this year?
Vaguely.
But I'm going to take that as a learning experience for that coaching staff.
Absolutely. But again, like if I'm not here to try to do more predictions because I feel like we did a lot of that in the offseason. I wanted us to dive a little more into that.
We still have so much more to talk about. We still have the SEC tournament. I'm gonna blast through this.
Let's go back and talk about our successes. Let's not look too far into the future.
I'm gonna blast through this real quick. You were right. We really did get off topic there. Right?
My bad. I just got fired up about it. I'm watching the tournaments over here. I'm fired up.
So here's some interesting stuff. This was if we were a bad team, what killed us? And we can definitely say we were not a bad team. So this will be interesting to hear what didn't happen that kept this team being good. Matt, yours was bad defense on the perimeter. I think we forget how scared we were of these guards playing defense. What happened, Matt?
We were great. We were great. I mean, I don't know if y'all got my stat in earlier, but we're a top 5 national team in KenPom defensive efficiency as a team.
Beautiful.
It's incredible. And the credit that this staff has done to get Denver Jones was not a good defender. He has been an incredible defender the last 2/3 of this season. Chad Baker-Mazar has gotten better. Aiden and Trey have battled their tails off at point guard. They may not be perfect defenders, but ultimately, we know we have a strong interior presence. I was just concerned about, do we get punished on the perimeter with our small 1s and 2s, and then our 3s our 3 that's a stick and could get rolled over at any point. It's great, and I was completely wrong, and it did not kill us. If anything, we found a way to thrive in a defensive system despite our limitations.
The interesting part is we're talking about these almost like they're predictions. None of these were predictions. We did that on purpose. We didn't actually want to make any predictions. These are more like what would have to go right and what would have to go wrong. Ben, yours was, if things were going to kill us, it was going to be that the depth doesn't contribute like it did at a conference. And what'd you think, Ben?
I mean, not only can we say that the depth contributed like they did out of conference, we had a potential disaster moment. We lost Jalen Williams, who, in my opinion, was the most indispensable player on this team. And what did we do? We had 2 brand new starters inserted into the lineup that combined for 41 points in Chad Baker-Mazar and Chaney Johnson. The depth absolutely held up, and that was a key part of why this was such a special year.
Crazy underrated game that only people like us are going to really discuss. Like no one's going to think about that game once the season ends, but it was so cool to watch CBM and Chaney step up in that game. Ryan, yours was right on the same line with Matt, defense from guard. You liked our defense from guard, I assume?
Absolutely. I'm not going to speak any more to it. Matt covered all of it for me.
And mine was, we might not have a dude. A lot of good guys, but no greats. And that is literally what we were just discussing before we got back on topic. It did not kill us. The fact, I really don't think we really got that dude this year. And maybe this is the only one that was wrong. So because we never really developed that dude, and it hasn't really killed us. I mean, we had some tight games. That Tennessee game showed that they had that dude and we didn't to counter it. So you can say that, but no one has to connect, like
Did
that.
I not that dude?
He's can be that dude, but we just talked about who would have the ball in their hand in that shot, and we kind of, I don't know, here, there, probably Jonai, but so you would know if you had the dude who you wanted in his hands.
Hey, some people on this podcast know. And look, Matt's right in that the only reason that we're not all committed to that is basketball is such a team sport. And look at what Dalton Knecht just did against Kentucky. He dropped 40 points on senior night in Knoxville, and they still lost by 5. So even if you have a dude, there is no guarantee that is a sure recipe to success every single night.
So here's the most fun here. We put down what would make us happy. And we are happy. We can all assume we're happy. So I'll be interested if any of these don't get right. Matt, for you to be happy with this season, you were probably the lowest expectation of anybody. It was make the tournament. There you go. We made the tournament, Matt.
Woo!
4, and we wanted to win 4 out of the 6 of these games. We blew right past it. He wanted to win 4 of the 6 of UGA, Ole Miss, and Alabama. We won 5 of those. We only lost 1 away at Alabama, which is fantastic. So you're happy, Matt?
Yeah, very happy.
All right, Ben, yours was win an SEC tournament game. Don't care about, what else was there? Don't care about C.
March Madness.
For you, we're still going. We didn't put in here that we would do this before the SEC tournaments. We'll come back to you on this one.
Good.
Storman, yours was top 4 in the SEC. Are you happy?
Happy.
Mine was make the NCAA, of course. Consistently top 25, a top 7 seed in the NCAA, and a good offense. Love it. I am very happy. We made the NCAA. We were top 25 almost the entire year. We're number 13, I believe. We're 12 right now. Top 7 seed is guaranteed. And man, we're good on offense. It's very, very, very fun. And that's the final question we have, guys. I need a checklist off here. Matt, are you having fun?
So much fun.
Ben, are you having fun?
War Damn Eagle, I'm having fun.
Ryan, having fun?
I don't have hobbies. I watch college basketball.
And I, Jackson Garrett, your fearless host, is having a lot of fun. Chat, let me know if you're having a lot of fun in the YouTube chat there. And we are going to move on to a preview of the SEC tournament, or as we like to call in the Auburn fan base, the Sex Tournament. What do we think, guys? We gonna pull something off here?
We'll see. It's going to
It's
be.
We got a chance. We got a chance.
Jackson
We got a chance to make a run.
How do y'all
Jackson.
feel? Ryan and Jackson, I want to get y'all's thoughts because y'all weren't on the pod. Are you happy with the way the tiebreakers went to be the 4 seed, potentially playing South Carolina and playing Tennessee a round earlier instead of playing them in the final, but avoiding Kentucky and Alabama. How do you feel about where we fell in the seeding?
Trying to get the bracket pulled up here, but making Ryan giggle with my spelling of SEC tournament.
You just keep typing the wrong thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool that it sucks that you end up playing South Carolina, who's like so firmly
Not yet.
not
Could be
yet. You're
Arkansas.
right.
I'm terrified of playing Arkansas. I'm just gonna
No, bring them on. They'll be
I'm
exhausted
terrified.
by then. They'll be exhausted by then.
I'm terrified.
Amen,
I-
Ryan. Bring them on.
I was hoping Vandy would win both. That was my hope, but no luck.
I'm cool with it because I do not want to see Florida again.
Agreed.
They're a horrible matchup for us, in my opinion. And Todd knows everything we're doing. So I don't even want to see Florida.
Agreed.
So South Carolina may have it out for us just because we whooped them by 40 at home. So that one might be a little closer than we probably would hope. But I mean, look, a lot of people are picking Arkansas to upset South Carolina tomorrow because they haven't played better. They played pretty well at Alabama. They probably should have lost tonight. But Pocket Watch just said in the chat, and I agree. Arkansas will be playing their third game in 3 days against us. Granted, we did that in 2014 with KT Harrell, Antoine Mason, Devin Waddell, Alex Thompson. I
Shout
keep
out.
going if you want me to. And we went on to play Kentucky in the semifinals. That's why Bruce said in his press conference today, he loves our depth in this first day on this Friday matchup because that team could potentially be playing their second or third day in a row, and he could just throw guys out there. And so I like the 4 seed because I like our matchup with Tennessee better than I do Kentucky. So
Go back and
I'm
listen to
cool with
our
it.
go back and listen to our KT Harrell podcast that we interviewed him with. He goes through that LSU shot that took us to the next round. It's a lot of fun to interview these guys. The 3 teams I did not want to play in this tournament were Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Florida, and they're all on the other side of the bracket, which is fantastic. Now, it sucks that if we beat South Carolina or Arkansas next, we would probably have to play number 1 seed Tennessee, who's aiming for a number 1 seed NCAA, but they just come off winning a ring in the SEC regular season. So the edge has got to be, as much as they would not ever admit it, the edge has got to be off just a little bit that they pulled off that ring. While we still have that edge that we want to win a ring, and this is the only way to do it pretty much. So I wonder if there's a little edge off there. They've had an emotional run. You saw how hard it was when we won the SEC 2 years ago, that we just kept pushing and ignoring any kind of flaws we saw or anything because we just wanted to win that ring. So just hope Tennessee may be a little emotionally exhausted. And, we almost got them in Neville. I think there's going to be a little revenge game there in a neutral site. It'll probably be semi-home game for them in Nashville, but the Auburn Nashville club is pretty intense. I hope Matt will be there, and I hope some other people will be there.
Matt, tickets are high, aren't they?
Super high. I'm not optimistic about our just because when you're on Tennessee's been so good all year that their fans decided to get on the bandwagon, and because we're playing the downside of the double bye if you're a local is when Auburn plays on Thursday in the SEC tournament or Wednesday, it's like, cool, I can go for $10. Let's go hang out. When you're in with Kentucky or when you're in with Tennessee in a season like this, it's 150 to get in the door for Friday for the doubleheader quarterfinals. So it's not
Oof.
cheap. Sunday,
I wouldn't blame you saving for that and basically saying if we can beat Tennessee, then I'll start spending some money.
Yeah, I'm looking at Sunday. If we were to beat Tennessee and we're playing for a title, I'll probably be there.
Hell, if we're playing Alabama Sunday or Kentucky, I'm there too.
And if we play Alabama, the tickets are going to be cheap because Kentucky and Tennessee are out.
You guys better
Alabama
fly
doesn't
in.
care.
I better see you two on a flight to Nashville if that's the case.
I might be
We're
saving
damn
up for that
boys.
Final
I'm
Four
in.
in Phoenix.
Yeah, true.
Well, we could play
what-
South Carolina next. That's the most likely. It's either South Carolina or Arkansas. South Carolina, we beat the mess out of at home by like 40 points. One of our best wins ever in Auburn history, I believe. We set some records on that one. I'll be curious of how much of that comes down to that was a great matchup and how much of that is like it's hard to beat a team twice like that. Like when we see revenge with Tennessee, and I'm saying there might be a little edge lost against Tennessee. I wonder if South Carolina is saying the same thing about playing us potentially. I think personally, there's probably some matchup stuff there. Like I said, don't want to play Texas A&M. I don't want to play Kentucky because they're long guards. We've had such issues with long guards the last couple of years. We just have shorter guards. And then I did want to play Florida because they seem to have our number this year. Now Golden, like you said, and a Bruce Pearl disciple that knows what we're going to run. So, I mean, like you said, if we're going to pick somebody, this is the one.
This is the one, unless you could get to the 2 seed and get the A&M Ole Miss game. But even that, like you said with A&M, like
I
that's
do
never a
not want to
fun
play
game for
A&M.
us. So I think we fell in a good spot. The only punishment is you have to play Tennessee in the second round. Now I'm just warning everybody. I think everybody and Bruce's his job will be, all 3 of these teams we could have played that we were scouting: Vanderbilt, Arkansas, South Carolina. We beat them all pretty good, and like you said, I mean, South Carolina's had a great year, and they have competed. They won in Knoxville. They have been really good. So we better not get caught looking ahead to Saturday. We've won a game in the SEC tournament twice in the last 9 years. Otherwise, we've won and done.
I feel like this team is different in that sense that like Bruce is having them. I could have probably said the same last year, right? But Bruce has them focused on this game, this year, now. I'm hoping that's the case.
I guess my point would be, don't get lulled to sleep by the fact that we beat South Carolina by 40. They've proven they're a good team, and this is a tough
I'm not doing
quarterfinal game for a 4 seed to have to play. Like, this is one of the teams that tied for second with us that we have to play.
Well,
first.
look, that 2019 SEC tournament, we were the 5 seed. South Carolina was the 4 seed.
Yep.
And Bruce teams had difficulty with Frank Martin, South Carolina teams to that point. They had Silva, they had some of those guys, and we struggled against them. Dang, Georgia won.
I was going to say, Missouri lost again. Bummer.
Dang, womp womp.
Never
Win
did win a
single
single
game in
SEC.
conference. Rough.
Yeah, no.
Unbelievable. After they were the 4 seed in the tournament last year. Never take it for granted, folks. Never take it for granted.
The other weird part,
Crazy.
like, it is interesting. South Carolina has been good this year, but man, I look at that Ole Miss, Texas A&M on the other side that Kentucky's playing. If that was us on that 2 seed line and it was going to be between Ole Miss and Texas A&M, I'd be worried as all get out. Texas A&M has just had our number. It's the new Kermit Davis, this guy, the new Frank Martin. Just the way they play just frustrates the mess out of us. I would hate to play them next.
Well,
And
listen,
then you got
don't
the Ole
take
Miss
this
with the Flanagan effect. Yeah.
Don't take this for granted. Tennessee has to play Mississippi State potentially in their first round game, and Mississippi State has beaten them already this year.
Let's dream, baby.
This is
Go
quite the
LSU,
year for the
Mississippi
SEC.
State.
This SEC tournament's going to be fun, right? Like, this is like, just looking
It-
down
it
the
has
day, like, there's a lot
essentially
of good teams.
It could have the most parity or the most chalk. Like we could see 1-4-2-3 on Saturday, which is a lot of fun.
This SEC
I was
tournament.
I was at every game last year, and it was super boring. Last year's tournament was super boring.
And I was just about to say
A lot of
how
reasons.
the SEC tournament's turning into one of the best things in college basketball, like the college sporting arena in general. Like, these teams are getting really
Well-
good. The atmosphere is fantastic in Nashville. It's the capital of SEC sports. Everyone's down on Broadway, having a great time, sticking around for a long weekend. Like, it is a lot of fun, this atmosphere. People want to be in
Well, and look-
Nashville. People want to be in Bridgestone for these games. And it's becoming like, great teams are playing there, unlike the past where it's like, oh, sure, it's the SEC capital, but like the basketball is whatever. Now people are really coming in. Like, Auburn fans will be there. Auburn fans are going to be locked in. Alabama fans are even starting to be in there. You got Kentucky and Tennessee, of course, even more. Tennessee's more intense than they've ever been in the past. And you're going to keep having some of these other teams like Texas A&M. Their fans are starting to get a little more excited. Florida fans are going to start getting a little more excited. Yeah, people they care about basketball in the SEC now.
And it'll be 16 teams next year.
We'll see if Oklahoma and Texas fans make it. I don't, it's the capital of like the traditional SEC. You just walk around Broadway, even on a non-game day of any sport, and you're going to see all kinds of SEC polos on of everybody. I don't know if you see that many Texas Oklahoma polos. Maybe you see more of them once they're in the SEC.
Are we going to have
Maybe.
straight 16-team tournament? No buys?
That's gonna be interesting. I don't know.
Interesting.
There's other sports have absolutely ruined this for everybody. I think we can say it now.
Well, I heard an interesting podcast today about college basketball with the sport and how, obviously the F word, if you will, has essentially with the SEC and Big Ten kind of continue to eat everything up. But in college basketball, like you literally cannot get rid of the Big East in college basketball because they've won the 4 out of the last 9 or 10 NCAA tournament championships. So, anyone to go out and win without the Big East in it, it would be illegitimate. So, it's an interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch moving forward how they handle all that with all these other sports
I think college basketball
either
fans are in a little
consolidating
bit.
or joining.
Yeah, I think college basketball fans are in a little bit of this like lull zone where like we're like just pretending like it's not going to get all blown up. That they wouldn't blow up college basketball for the other sport, and they absolutely would blow up college basketball for the other sport. Enjoy March Madnesses while you have them, the way they are now with the lower seeds and the Cinderellas, and every conference gets in. Like enjoy that for now because I think there'll be something weird and messed up in the next couple of years that does not include what we love about March Madness. I mean, it's run by the NCAA. It's what like the other sport's not run by the NCAA really, it just has some rules. This tournament is run by NCAA and it's cash cow. I'm sure whatever they come up with, the Super League or whatever they come up with in the next couple of years of the Big Ten, SEC, they will want to make the money that the NCAA has been making in this March Madness run, and they will blow up this March Madness. So enjoy it while you got it. I know that's a little doomer, but like we're having fun for now, and maybe you might be telling your kids about how it used to be.
So here's something interesting to talk about looking forward to SEC tournament, NCAA tournament. Kansas is losing by more than 20 against Cincinnati and is on the 4-3 line. I am going to assume that they're going to be pushed back to possibly a 5, which helps our case for a high 4 seed if we were to win Friday. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where we end up in the NCAA tournament compared to the potential 4-5 line. We could be, if we make a run, 3-4. I don't know.
Keep locked in with our socials because Ben has been on top of it of watching the games here and there to see who would push us in and out of the 4s, and he'll let you know on social media for sure.
I've been doing my best, but like Ryan's saying, a lot of it's going to shake out with this conference tournament. There's a lot of teams competing for these 3 and 4 spots.
Somewhat.
I mean, yeah, that's what I was
in the past, they haven't cared. Like we all remember Texas A&M going to the conference finals in 2021, 2022, and then they didn't make the tournament. I don't really know how much they take into effect of that, but if Dickinson and McCullers are out for long term, then that might have effect. Like I think they're actually looking into injury type stuff now.
I don't want to get too ahead of things, but if you heard Jackson mention earlier, Indiana State, who did not win their conference tournament, they lost in the final, and there's been a big push for them to be in the tournament on social media. One of the committee members was interviewed by CBS and said, "We're taking into account that 2 of their key losses this year was without 2 of their starters." So politics,
glad they're paying attention,
including Alabama.
Politics is going to play a role.
Glad they're paying attention.
It's now the Florida State method in what do you call it?
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
I think in the past for the SEC tournament, we have waited until the end of the SEC tournament to do the post SEC tournament podcast. Some of that has been dictated by our early exits. So we might be a little more excited to hop on if we pull off a win against, would it be Saturday or Friday against Tennessee? That'd be Saturday, right? So if we beat Tennessee Saturday, I think there's a little more of a chance that we're going to want to hop on. But
whoa. If we win our first SEC tournament game since 2018, Ben will do a solo podcast if he has.
Do a solo pod. We'd love to hear and chat. You can, help him out as his co-host because I don't know if anybody else will jump in or not. Just kind of depends on availability. But I would say for listeners, plan on us doing a full recap at the end instead of doing one after every game. Hopefully we'll be excited on Sunday, but it'll probably be a SEC tournament recap, NCAA tournament preview combo. I believe we've done that in the past, so we'll just end up waiting till Sunday night. Probably, I'm sure several other podcasts, and we'll be going live and having a good time. But we'll try to wedge ourselves in there. And yeah, guys, any other thoughts before we go in the SEC tournament? Any recap stuff? Anything?
I would just say be prepared on Selection Sunday. I think we're the most interesting resume in the country. With what does the committee do? They have been really married to this quad system thing, and that's going to hurt us if that's true.
What about the net systems? The net doesn't play anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We're number 6 in nation.
Yeah, so like
that's a 2 seed. So just people are really assuming that we're in and around the 4.
I've seen a certain amount of fingers being held up by Storm, and I'm seeing 3 fingers. Am I right? Am I counting that right? Or did he get his pinky cut off?
I could see honestly, I could see us being anywhere from, the 8th, 9th, 10th team overall as one of the top 3 seats to maybe a low 5. Like, I really think they could punish us for just the unluckiness of our quad 1 record. I mean, I personally, as somebody who's followed this a long time, I feel like Auburn has a much wider possibility of where not only what seed line we end up, but where in the world in America we end up playing. Because
Spokane.
We're going to Spokane.
Why do people think that?
Because literally everyone in
because
their
they don't think Auburn,
but
they don't think Auburn basketball is going to travel based on
we're in Birmingham last year.
Yeah,
there's not a
Birmingham
good southern
optional city.
There's not a good South team.
I'm not saying we're going to be in the South. I just think it's funny that everybody thinks they know we're going to Spokane, Washington.
Well, it's just because we all see Lenardi and
Ben Stradamus.
I know.
Ben Stradamus called 24 wins. Ben Stradamus is calling a 4 seed in the Spokane round.
Okay,
I don't know. Do we bring that up the entire time? Ben, do you want to gloat a bit about your 24 win prediction you put on the pod?
I don't, just because I feel like this was a 26 win team. And I think we let a couple get away from us that I really wish we hadn't. It's like Bruce said. I'm glad that Bruce, of all of us, is the most level-headed about his expectations for this team. And I know he's been working this week to light a fire under these guys. We're not done yet. The first season is done. We missed out on a championship. Nothing else matters. We're starting season 2 on Friday, and we got to take care of business and go get us a ring.
Next year, when we do this again for our predictions to start the year, pay attention to what Ben has to say, because 2 years in a row, he has made shocking statements, and they have been correct. He predicted that Trey would be a really good point guard and maybe take the starting position at the year. We guffawed. We could not ever think that was going to happen. And Trey played great and almost took the starting position. This year, the 24 wins. So next year, whatever he ends up saying that seems wild at the time, just mark it down, and you'll see if he gets 3 out of 3.
Wait. It's not just me. I wrote down our best takes. Matt called Denver playing emergency point this year at the beginning of the season when I thought there was no shot. We've got 2 incredibly talented point guards. Ryan, Storm, and Norman called Chaney being somebody that could compete for the starting job. And I know it was against Georgia, but it was a road game after losing one of the toughest game day matchups of the year against Kentucky. And what did Chaney Johnson do but come in and drop double digits? Jackson Danger Garrett predicted Chris Moore's entire season almost to a T.
So I wish I hadn't.
I know he wishes he hadn't, but if you listen to us before last year, we were all over some guys that didn't wind up panning out. But if you listen to us at the beginning of this year, you got a pretty good preview for who Auburn basketball was going to be. So tune into the Jungle Auburn podcast, even in the offseason.
Mr. Beautiful says, please predict 33 wins for us next year, Ben.
Hang on. I don't want to predict 33 wins for us next year. I want to predict 3 wins to end the season. I want to predict a win in the SEC tournament. And I want to predict us getting to that second weekend in March.
That feels like we didn't talk about this, but I saw a post on a message board about what are your expectations. It feels like Auburn fan base general consensus with this team feels like try to win 1 conference tournament game and get to the second weekend. That feels like what this team is. We know how hard that is to do on both of those levels from just look at our past history. But I think that seems to be that's a great season. I just want to clarify that is a great season if those things happen.
Feels like we're due, right? We've underachieved in the March the last couple times, and this team feels like it's due for one of these. And you're right. We could have done a what would make you happy thing like we did for the SEC tournament. And I think, winning 1 game in the SEC tournament, because then we have to go against Tennessee. We know they're hot and great. So if we end up going down to them in a competitive game, I'm still happy. Yeah, go Sweet 16. I'm happy. I think everybody, and let me know if any of y'all disagree, but I think that would make pretty much everybody happy.
Can I share one stat that I found? I'm sorry. I was late to the party.
Yes.
Listen,
Get it
I've
in
never
there,
seen
Matt.
a team do this. I've never seen it. This is nerdy, but deep stuff here. Like Auburn's opponents for the entire season, you know what their assist to turnover ratio was? All of our Auburn's opponents, if you added up their assists to their turnovers, it was 0.7. They had 30% more turnovers than assists, and ours was almost 2-1. So the things we've talked about all year with the assist, the ball movement, and taking care of the ball, which we probably haven't focused on enough for Auburn. We're not necessarily turning over other teams on a crazy. I've just never seen for an entire season to keep all of your opponents on average below like a negative assist to turnover ratio. That's insane.
I got to address something that Ryan put in the chat because I thought we were consensus on the podcast on this. I thought we've said this so many times of what is the most important ring to win, or what's the most like, maybe you mean as like, sure, winning the entire NCAA tournament is probably number one, but winning the SEC regular season's number one, then SEC tournament, then doing a Final Four late run in the SEC tournament or NCAA Elite Eight. Like what would Final Four?
What's the question?
What would rival? Are you saying win the NCAA tournament, Ryan? That's what you would win over the other two? Because of course you would do that.
I would say SEC tournament people remember more than the regular season.
Oh, I'd pick SEC regular season for sure.
I would too.
The only reason that I don't want to do that is because it's so much more impressive when you can do both. Like the teams that win the SEC regular season and then go on to win the tournament, it feels like that stamp of this was our year.
I feel like when you look up SEC champion for the year, what you mean is regular season, right?
Yes.
I don't think so. I think people will look up tournament.
Oh, I
The
disagree.
real question that I love that Jackson asked, because I think that there's a debate about that. I think there's room on both sides for that to be right. If you prefer the tournament or if you prefer the regular season, what level of NCAA round achievable is better? Like we know the Final Four is better than either one. That's just the reality of college basketball. It's a huge deal that we made one. Tennessee's never made one. Alabama's never made one. It's a huge deal that we got there. But is an Elite Eight better than a SEC championship?
Final Four or above, SEC regular season, Elite Eight, SEC tournament, Sweet 16.
No.
Elite Eight.
Hard to disagree.
Elite Eight all day. Elite Eight all day.
Because you take an Elite Eight over an SEC regular season.
You don't get
Yes.
You don't get hardware for SEC regular season, I don't think.
You get rings.
Yeah, you do. You get rings and a trophy.
You get a big old trophy. You don't get anything for Elite Eight.
You get a great, nice banner up there that says Elite Eight. That
only certain teams do that. We would do that.
But here's the.
What you say? We don't put a banner for the SEC regular season?
No. Hang on.
It took us 5 years to put that up there in Neville Arena. I go to every single game. I did not see it. It took us 5 years to put one up there for 2017.
For SEC tournament?
Alabama has never been to an Elite Eight. Tennessee has been to one Elite Eight. When you look around the SEC at the best top tier programs, the programs that we're competing against on a regular basis, the number of teams that have Elite Eight banners, I'm pretty sure there's 4. There's South Carolina that has one. There's Florida that has a couple. There's us, and there's Kentucky. And I think Mississippi State might have one from way back in the day, because I think Mississippi State is final.
90s. Yep.
Ty K says...
Oh, and LSU I think has 1 or 2.
Ty K says that you, in fact, don't get the hardware for the regular season. And Pocket Watch says Elite Eight is definitely better than anything SEC. I don't know. I guess
absolutely, you absolutely get hardware for the regular season. Where is this coming from?
I don't know. I know, like in the tournament, the trophy I see in my head.
Go back and look at our picture of Bruce on social media. Bruce has the regular season championship trophies there with him.
It's a net. They cut the net down.
It's the nets.
You get a ring. You get rings.
Rings and nets.
The trophy they're holding is when they won the tournament.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's
but honestly,
do I have to show this to you? No, the trophy tournament looks. You guys are killing me.
I'm looking it up.
Look, hey, all the power to you for looking this up. But I think it's funny because no one really cared about this till recently because Kentucky won everything, and now it's a debate.
Yep.
Which is great because we never had to have this debate.
We have stuff to claim and rank now, Ryan. We have trophies to rank.
But what's funny is in 2017, 2018, we won, and then Anthony McLemore, broke his leg, and then we got absolutely booty blasted by Alabama in the SEC tournament. I was at that game. It was absolutely brutal. Right now, it's like, man, I would have.
Hold the
I-
presses. Hold the presses. I have a picture of an SEC regular season championship trophy that Kentucky is holding up in this picture. So clearly there is
What's
a
the year?
trophy here.
That's 2015. That's outdated.
Are you saying they
They-
got
they
rid
would've-
of the trophy? Are you saying they
But
got
went
rid of the
ahead and
trophies?
They went ahead and gave both trophies to them because they knew they weren't going to lose. That's my take on that.
No, because the SEC tournament trophy is this big cylindrical thing, which I have open over here. I don't know if you can still see it or not, but that's the SEC tournament trophy.
Look,
Right here.
Pocket Watch said he'd take a Sweet 16 over.
Don't
SEC
change the
regular season.
subject. There is an SEC regular season trophy that we would win if
But
we
I
got
will
This
say-
fight
one.
is why you tune into this podcast.
I will say though, Ryan's right, Jackson. We were there. There was no trophy when we won.
Well, they couldn't have it then. They give it the next season
Exactly.
to start the season. you know?
Or they do it at the SEC tournament sometimes.
They
It's
do
too-
it.
it's-
Yes, that's correct, Matt.
In fact,
They
you
do.
guys
That's
would
a great
lose
point.
your all get out if for some reason the SEC had brought the trophy when we had to win our last game and they had it in some corner. Somebody got a picture.
You
of
bring
it or
multiple
something.
trophies. It's not that complicated. You have multiple trophies.
Okay,
and
hold on.
It
Hang on.
would
Let's
leak.
let's
It would
rewind.
leak.
Let's rewind, and let's talk about why we think the Elite Eight is such a benchmark. Because if you
Yeah,
recall,
Ty K,
when
you stand
the-
corrected.
if you recall, when we've had our major SEC tournament runs, it's been winning 3 or 4 games in a row. And if you've watched college basketball for long enough, when you play against really good competition, stringing together winning streaks is incredibly difficult. The fact that Auburn has won 52 straight non-conference games in Neville Arena is some incredible history. The fact that Auburn went 15-1 this year and continues for the last 4 years to have the best home record in SEC basketball is incredible. And to get to the Elite Eight, you must string together 3 wins against some of the best teams in America. In the SEC tournament, if you're going to win the championship, you got to string together 3 wins against the best teams in the SEC.
But
Which one of those do you think is harder?
I gotta say,
this year, I think the SEC is harder.
Okay.
South
Respect.
Carolina,
I
Tennessee,
respect that.
Kentucky.
I'm with Matt on that one. Here's
But
the
that's
thing.
also why you heard.
as a-
That's also why you heard Ryan talk earlier about how important it is for us to get some momentum to win a couple of
Yep.
those games going into the NCAA's.
I get so here's my thing. As a diehard college basketball podcast haver with the SEC, I cannot have the regular season be less important than an Elite Eight. I can get as a person that like vaguely loves sports and watches college basketball when they can, the Elite Eight would be cooler because it does have much more hype. There's much more national media attention. You get to brag with your friends more in the office and things. But like if we're downgrading the SEC championship to be on the level of a Sweet 16, what's the point of watching all year long? Like this is a lot of games, a lot of nights to move your schedule around for the
But
SEC
that's-
regular season not matter that much to be
Well,
matter
it's
as much as
watch-
Sweet 16.
It's kind of always been that way, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it's definitely got the
you
hype
watch all year
machine.
long
The
because-
national hype machine, like nothing has done college basketball more marketing ability and PR than people filling out their NCAA bracket because it's huge. All these people that never care jump in. But honestly, I don't care about the opinions of the people that don't care until they fill in their bracket. I care about the people that watch all year long and argue with you on the Reddit threads and argue with you on the message boards and listen to the podcasts every week. Those people I care about, and they care about the regular season championships because they have
Bruce
to be
does
locked
too,
in
by the
every
way.
year.
Jackson.
Bruce
Jackson-
is clear that it's his most.
So if you're listening an hour plus into this SEC pocket, then you're with me. You're with the SEC regular season people.
Yes, but Jackson, let's not forget we couldn't even get you on every episode of the podcast. This is
That's what I'm saying. But I'm like, it's a long season. So if you can't get on, like,
I think
it's a
I think
lot.
Matt is our regular season champion here. Let's be
No, I think
honest.
no.
I think Matt's
Ben
the
might
regular
be,
season
man.
champion.
then you are for sure.
I'd love to see the count. It's probably sitting
It's
more even
been,
than we're
no
thinking. No, you're
it's
right.
not
you're
even
right.
close. Not even close.
I
Ryan,
am
you-
the
you
only one that
suck.
had to
You're
do a
never here.
solo episode. No,
Just kidding,
Ryan's
Ryan, we
the
love you.
Ryan's the dark horse. Ryan's the dark horse. He shows up in March and does all the damage. Cinderella run.
We'd love to have you, Ryan.
Hey, I don't have hobbies. I watch college basketball. This is
There
March.
we go.
We sleep in May.
When are we getting Rothstein?
Or like me, I haven't.
Oh my God.
I haven't
Right.
slept in 2 years.
I have fallen off a bit on my, like, I was reaching out to everybody. We were getting some interesting stuff, but this season had a little less
Come on, New
interviews in the
Yorkers.
past.
New
just
Yorkers,
gotta go to
go
his
get
bar.
John Rothstein. Bring him back to your apartment.
Here's something to think about. I know we just think this thing keeps going, but I'm having fun. Last thing to think about: potentially enjoy the mess out of every win you get from now on, because this season could be over after all these games we watched, after all the growth we've seen from these players. This could be 2 games. 2 games is what you could get out of these players, and then a lot of them you'll never see again in an Auburn basketball uniform. So enjoy the mess out of every game you get to watch these guys down the stretch. This was a fun season and a fun team to watch and good kids to watch. So enjoy the mess out of it.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping. I'm hoping so bad. Like I'm hurting
These
to the fact
teams
that I
do-
like hope that we win at least a couple games here, because that cements how good this team was, and that people remember that. Because I've been fighting some bozos on Twitter who are just like, "Oh, this team's gonna lose in the first, second round." I'm like, you guys are just. I don't even get started.
These
on this.
bozos have not watched our games
But-
all year, or any that they're seeing the quad wins, and they're drilling in on that, and they're not going to let go.
Look, I get it. You want to win every game, and you want to beat every team, and I want to do the same thing. But you have to look at these things realistically, right? Like it just happens. It's college basketball. People lose in the regular season. It happens.
Have we even mentioned that we
So
had the
what can you
best
do to learn
record
from that?
regular season in the SEC?
Like the
We-
best
we-
overall record.
The best
Okay,
overall.
again.
We tied Tennessee for the best overall record in the SEC.
Wow. And we lead the nation in quad 2 wins, right? We didn't lose a single quad 2. We're the only
Yeah.
team in the nation, I believe, that didn't lose a quad 2 game, right?
Yeah.
That's something they don't bring
Yeah.
up, these bozos.
I
Listen.
just hope we can prove, like, sometimes I hope we prove our own fan base wrong sometimes.
Yes.
Like everyone thinks that we are going to be a Final Four 2019 team because we set that bar so high. And that's just not realistic in any expectation or any way. You just got to enjoy the ride, and if it happens, it happens. So with that being said, just enjoy it. Like, if we go out and we win Friday by 3 points, enjoy it. They'll go back complaining and comparing
Yep.
the last time we beat South Carolina was by 40. That game is a wash to me right now, because they could come out with a completely different game plan, completely different mindset, and take it to us, in whatever way. So enjoy every win, like Jackson said. You never know when it's going to end, and just enjoy it.
Never
I'm gonna
forget
look
that
it
we
up,
should have
Ty K.
lost.
I believe.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Ty K mentioned in the chat, when was the last time Auburn men and women's went to the NCAA tournament? I'm not sure. I think it's like 2017.
Yeah, I feel like it happened somewhat recently.
I'll look it up.
Matt, were you about to mention New Mexico State for us?
I was literally going to say the Final Four team should have lost to New Mexico State in the first round. So if you ever wanted any debate about what Jackson and Ryan just said, just go back to that run, watch the last minute, and watch Auburn completely implode, and really should have lost that game.
No, the math system is there for a reason. The math system is why we won that
The
game.
Matt said we left the guy wide open in the
I'm
corner.
with Ben. They were never in it.
Ridiculous. Hey, for the real ones though, for the real ones out there, I just was laughing. And if you wondered why, if you're still watching this for some unknown reason, I was laughing because Ryan, I was looking back at that 3-win stretch in the SEC tournament, Bruce's first year. You know who was a bucket in that tournament?
Simeon Bowers.
KC Ross Miller. Shout out.
Oh, Casey Ross Miller.
KC Ross
Wow.
Miller.
Is he the one?
That
that
is
was
a name
point-
I have not
Is
heard
he the
in
one
a
that was
minute.
point shaving, or?
No, that was Perez Ward.
No, that was, dude, get that out of your mind.
Get your
No,
people
it was
right.
not Casey Ross Miller. I hung out with Casey Ross Miller in Vegas.
I knew it. I
when
knew
they
it was.
played
I
in
just feel like
Vegas.
I want to hear more
Wait,
about
wait,
that.
wait. I want to hear this story from Ryan.
Wait,
No,
all right.
This
Jackson,
podcast
fir-
is
first
sending
up,
into madness.
That's fine. We got Pocket Watch, we got Ty K, we got Mr. Beautiful. They're all loving this. So Jackson,
Shout out to
Garrett-
Caleb. Shout out Caleb Williams, our first ever fan. He's still around. He doesn't come onto the YouTubes. I just find at the end of the year, Caleb, you're getting the shout out.
So So I went to Vegas. My senior year of college was 2014. Auburn played in a Vegas tournament. Bruce was like, "We're taking this team during Thanksgiving," and I was like, "I love college basketball so much. Mom, Dad, will you pay for my like graduation trip to go to Vegas?" And they did. So
Shout out
I got
Corey
on TV.
Hayes.
Yeah, me. So me and Corey Hayes went to Vegas to watch Auburn basketball play against Tulsa and Oregon State. And I was walking through the MGM Grand Casino and I played crabs with Tony Jones Live, Chuck Person, should have saw it coming, by the way,
Shout out.
and Stephen Pearl, and then Casey Ross Miller, Malcolm Canada, Antoine Mason were all sitting there playing slots, sat down, played with them. So cool. I always, if I ever see those guys again, I'm gonna say they laid the foundation for this team. But the Casey Ross Miller was the funniest guy ever. And I will always remember that trip as like I went out to dinner with Bruce, Chad Pruitt, the LA Auburn club that like drove up for the game. It was the most bizarre trip of my life. But like every time I see those guys and people in person, like Chad Pruitt, Bruce, I'm like, "Hey, remember Vegas?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. You were the guy who like we didn't have any fans then, but you came out." And Jackson Garrett grabbed this photo of me on TV. I'm gonna find it. You're watching on
Shout
your
out.
iPad.
Shout out Jay Lowry for always messaging us on Instagram. Love our fans. Love the people that listen to our podcast. Part of the Jungle community. SEC Championship preview, tournament preview. I got the
Yeah,
mic
anyways,
off.
guys,
I got the
the red
mic
mount.
off
We're
the
in
stick.
trouble.
I'm really
Jackson, can we make a note
in the
off-season-
podcast.
in the off season? We need to have an episode where we just tell random Auburn basketball stories from our like past. We have
Yes.
enough. We have enough.
Yes, love
stories.
that.
In.
This is me against Auburn versus Xavier in 2014. I'm on the on ESPN.
I sent that to you.
No, this is a different one. That was against Xavier. We beat
Incredible.
Xavier.
Incredible.
Beat Chris
If
Mack,
you're not listening,
who's now unemployed.
That was a heck of a win. I remember that.
Shout out Zep Jasper, Venezuela League.
Dude, first off, I had no idea Venezuela had a professional league. Do you want to go to Caracas to play professional basketball? All for you. Like good for Zep. Like happy for him, but that's crazy.
What about going to Iraq, like Marshall Henderson?
That's also crazy. Baghdad
I
Bombers.
did not. I never knew that he literally went to Iraq. That is sorry, podcast listener, but Jackson works for Vice, and he shared a video with us today of Marshall Henderson's time playing in an Iraqi basketball league. And if you have not watched this video on YouTube, first of all, get on YouTube and watch Offshore Accountant with fearless host Jackson Garrett.
I'll
And then get
allow
on
it.
the
I
Vice.
have not brought up my other professional career, but I'll allow the SEC. No one's going to be listening this late in the podcast.
we're
Jackson,
an
I
hour
found
and a
the
half in.
photo.
If you're still
I found the
listening.
photo.
It's so good.
I'm always archiving Ryan's
Auburn,
basketball
Oregon
experiences. And when we have that preview episode, or when we have that just shooting the whatever we want to talk about Auburn basketball, we'll also talk about the Baylor game that would have sent us to Madison Square Garden at NIT. Me
Oh,
and Ryan
man,
in high
brutal.
school together.
Brutal
I can
loss.
name every player off that team. You want me to?
How many fingers you got
No.
there? You
No.
need a sixth. You need a sixth
No.
finger. I
Frank
think.
Tolbert.
Can we?
Frank
Yeah,
Tolbert.
that's-
Got Frank
Deep
Tolbert,
cuts.
Dwayne Reed, Quantez Robertson, Rasheem Barrett, Tay Waller, Corvatney Barber.
Yep.
Corvatney Barber. Oh my!
Was
I forgot about Corvatney Barber.
was
Uh,
Johnny Lett? No, that was
Yes,
later.
Johnny Lett,
Johnny Lett.
Brendan Knox.
Oh, Knox. Yeah.
That's a
It's
pull.
just
That's
in
a
from the chat.
pull.
This is why we love the chat.
That's a
Ty
pull.
Ty K said Rob Chubb played in Sri Lanka basketball league.
I don't believe
Wow.
that.
I didn't
believe
think
that at
I didn't
all.
think
That's
Venezuela was gonna or
incredible.
Serbia was gonna get beat Sri Lanka. I gotta look that up. I mean, to be fair, that's what I would do. I would travel all over the world playing basketball if they pay me to do it, even if it's like not a lot. I would still get to see some cool stuff at 24 years old or whatever they are, you know. But I know it's easier said than done.
Jackson, who else randomly do you want to shout?
I feel like the depths. I think I've run out of shout.
I'm going to give a shout out to Zach Barrett, who's an OG Auburn basketball fan. I saw him at Neville last weekend when I was there. He knows as much about Auburn hoops as anybody. He's loving this team. He is like paying a certain amount, a small amount to get access maybe one day to season tickets. Like that's how it is in Auburn, which is just insane. He's on like a list. He got to buy some standing room only tickets to go like be at the Georgia game. Like it's crazy. So shout out to him.
Shout out to AU Booth on Reddit. If you're on Reddit, you know AU Booth was the guy in 2017, 2018. Every single basketball postseason thread or post game thread, he would say, "Are we good?" ? And everybody would say yes. And that's kind of the start of that Reddit community. You used to have to like, they wouldn't even have threads back then, but AU Booth would be in every single one. Anyways, this got really off the rails. I hope you enjoyed the more wacky version of this. We're having fun.
Playing the Jalen shirt.
The Jalen shirt, Matt, it got me all goofy. So I'm glad you
who
brought
can
that.
Get on YouTube and look at this shirt. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Who can name players from the 2012-2013 team?
The point shaver.
Tony Naismith?
Ward.
Tony Naismith. Let's do 2013 to 2014. All right.
That
Jordan Price, Shaquille Johnson.
Jordan Granger? No.
Jordan Granger. Ashawn Dixon Tatum. Rob Chubb. Who else we
Was
got?
Chris Denson still on the
Josh
team
Wallace?
in 14?
No.
Brian Green Jr.
Oh, deep cut.
Remember him?
Yeah,
Shout
baby.
out.
No,
Beard
Josh
Eves,
Josh Wallace was a senior in 2013.
You're right. My bad.
shout out Beard Eves Memorial Coliseum. Play another game in it before you destroy it. That's my last shout out. Anybody
I can
else?
say-
Can I get a War Eagle, everybody? I think we need to turn this thing on.
Ben is trying to wrangle the podcast. What is happening? Ben is
I'm
the,
having a great,
the
I'm
voice
having a
of
great
reason.
time. Benis Crucianis,
Ben-
Jack Purchase.
I listen to a lot of Auburn
Purchase.
podcasts, and we
Jack
are so much
Who's
more.
hosting? Who's hosting?
We're
Mute
so much
Ryan
more.
before he
We're so
names
much more
more.
locked in than every other podcast in the Auburn sphere, in my opinion. So we can goof off in the one podcast.
Look,
here.
I'll name every player you want me to. I'll go right ahead.
Yeah, listen. At least
Pocket
Ryan's
Watts.
not talking about what he had for dinner. Shout out Auburn Observer.
Anyways,
Pocket
Ryan.
Watch said, "Destroy it now."
Ryan, what was your take on Alan Payne? I loved Alan Payne. You remember him?
Alan Payne got the raw end of the deal. He was
We have
very
someone-
good, but he got plugged into the wrong. So is Josh Langford. Remember Josh Langford?
Oh, I love Josh Langford. I thought he was going to be the real deal.
Every Tony Barbie possession, he would yell, "Josh, Josh," and you're like, he didn't do anything wrong, but he was always on Josh Langford's tail, and it was like, what is wrong with you?
Can we talk for a minute
I don't
about
know.
Tony Barbie timeouts where he would just like call timeout and stare at the entire team for like 45 seconds and then they would go back out and play?
The year.
I'd love to talk about Tony Barbie, but he blocked me on Twitter.
No.
Um,
Tony Barbie just won MAC Coach of the Year.
We got to
is
get him
insane.
on. Shout out,
Almost-
coach.
in the most ridiculous, like they were 18 and 13. They were fourth in their conference, but they gave him Coach of the Year. What about Toledo? Toledo's great.
come on the
I have
pod,
another
Tony
shout
Barbie.
out. I have another shout out. Shout out to Stretch for making all conference at the A10 at George Washington. People were so weird about Stretch, saying he was trash. He was a good player. He just, he had to go somewhere.
This is what the transfer portal is for
Yeah.
players like that to go get a chance to start somewhere else and have a good season. So shout out to Stretch.
Right. I like to shout out Chance Westry, who had 0 minutes played this year.
What? No way. Are you serious?
Oof.
Did not play.
At Syracuse, he didn't play at all?
No.
Wow.
Injury.
They're done.
Injury.
Another injury. Wow. I looked up Johan Traore's stats the other day at UC Santa Barbara. He actually played pretty well. He was like averaging above 10.
Jackson, give us some of the Johan content you prepared for last season's
Oh,
pod.
I can send it out on social, but it was all my fiance speaking French and then me repeating it back so I could edit it all together. I went to France and did a lot of Johan content. I went to a basketball museum in France and demanded a man come down from the elevator and give me a tour of it while it was closed so I could show off our new signee, and then nothing happened. Nothing at all. Maybe he'll make his way back to Auburn.
Shout out to our new potential #1 recruit, AJ Dabasta. who's going to be committing to Auburn soon.
Oh, maybe because we're going to be Nike. Maybe we get him. Maybe you think? You think?
Ha, 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 ha.
Listen, we've learned not to talk too much shop around that. That got us in a little
Shout
trouble
out.
with our connection with Auburn Communication.
Oh.
Shout
Apologies.
out the guy at Samford. Samford made the NCAA tournament, and we
Ooh.
might.
Chandler Leopard. Chandler Leopard.
And there
and
were some
Buckyball
predictions that we
with
might have to
Lior
play
Bermans.
Samford. We might have to play Samford in the first round. Some predictions I saw.
I'd
No one-
absolutely love. I would love to play Stanford. I would love to play Stanford.
I would not like to
We
play
would
anybody.
absolutely demolish them.
I wouldn't want to play anybody that could potentially have any chip on their shoulder about us. I mean, like the people that play in our same state.
Dude.
They play the same style as Alabama with way less talent. And
We would absolutely
we would eat them. We
demolish
would eat
them.
them alive.
Weird things happen, man.
I would love that. I know, but dude, I'm telling you, they don't lack. They have guards that play really hard. Our guards would have a field day.
I'm
They
in
would have
such
an
a
absolute
good.
field day.
I'm in such a good mood. I just saw somebody on Twitter say Mizzou's postseason fate now lies in the hands of the selection committee. That's a
Oh,
great
man.
tweet. That's a great tweet. Sorry.
Well, on that note, unless anybody else has a final shout out that pops in their head, I'll give you 3.
Would we do a
2.
podcast if we were 0-19? Would we do a postseason recap? Or
I would
postgame
say
recap?
screw you guys. I'm going to bed.
I'm going to tell you one thing for sure. You would not get a Ben solo episode if we were 0-19.
Ugh, 0-19 is brutal.
Dude, it's wild because they were the 4 seed last year in the SEC tournament. Like unbelievable. 0-19.
So take a moment again to appreciate the way that Bruce builds, because in the era of the transfer portal, it's tempting to try to turn your entire roster over. Which, if you remember
I
our
could
Mizzou
really-
preview, yeah, Ryan could talk about this for days. Mizzou tried to turn over their entire roster, and it just does not work.
I
You
sure hope
really want to get this thing turned over and talk about next year's class.
just keep this thing going.
No, we gotta
keep
save-
this thing
save it for the
going
off-
through
save
the
it for the
games.
offseason.
We record so long that the games get played and we move on. If you're like, this is usually one of our most listened podcasts, the SEC tournament preview, SEC recap. So sorry to all the new listeners that we finally goofed off. We don't usually goof off this much, but I hope you enjoyed it.
We should leave like a
Recanting.
code. Leave
TJ
it-
Lang.
TJ
Keep
Lang.
going.
I love TJ Lang. I love
This is
that
what
kid.
this is what life's
Wally
this is what
Tinker.
dudes being
Tyler
boys
Harris.
being dudes, guides being men,
Hey.
just shouting out random basketball players.
Jackson,
names in a
Jackson,
circle.
we need a code to leave right now in this episode so we can have people like send us a message. If you're listening to this right now, what code should they DM us?
Simeon
Hey,
Bowers.
Waller.
Simeon Bowers played the 6th position. If you tell us anything about the 6th position or Simeon Bowers, we'll know you listen this late.
Okay.
Yeah, if you tweet us or send us a message on Instagram or comment on anything asking us who's going to start at the 6 in the SEC tournament, we'll know.
There we
Oh.
go.
If you did this, you're a real one, and honestly, we should probably consider doing something small for those people.
Anything we can. They can come on the pod if they want to. Let us know.
That's
They're
your
getting me in the
access.
old Burt Reynolds.
Access to the pod. There you go.
There you go. All right, guys. War Eagle.
Where you go?